Hi, everybody. Um, so I was going to make a video where, I don't know, I had some kind of serious conversation with the universe, but, I don't have very much to say right now. Uh, so instead, I'm going to read a couple of pages from my favorite book. My favorite book is called Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars by Daniel M. Pinkwater. This is it's technically a young adult fiction book, uh, and that I think maybe adults appreciating this sort of thing is looked down upon. But I have a soft spot in my heart for it. I read it I didn't read it. I heard it for the first time when I was at summer camp. I was 11 years old, and I was staying in a teepee up on a mountain with a couple other people. It was like an elective program you could sign up for. Um, you could spend half of your month at camp in a teepee, kind of in a hill on the woods. I mean, in the woods on a hill. It was nice. Anyway, there was a huge. It was in Maine, and there was like a huge storm, and so nearly a hurricane, and so we all had to run down the hill and hide in this storm shelter. And my one of my first crushes, actually, this camp counselor, she had a copy of it in her backpack, and she read it to all of us, and the rain was just slamming against the roof of the storm shelter, and it smelled like mothballs, and we lit a candle, and she just read this book to us, and it's one of my best memories. And when I was that young, I guess I was kind of, I didn't really fit in. I still don't really fit in now, and it just resonated with me. 'Cause it's just about a couple of weird psychic misfits living in a world of just insane, stupid adults, and one of them is an alien, and the books resonated with me in a big way my entire life. Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars by Daniel Pinkwater. I highly recommend it. A lot of his other books are really good too. I don't think he's written anything for adults yet. So I'm going to read a few pages from this book. So I like the sound of my own voice. Okay. I got off to a bad start at Bat Masterson Junior High School. My family had moved from my old school district during the summer, and I didn't know a single kid at the school. On top of that, it turned out that kids at Bat Masterson put a lot of emphasis on how you look. This created a problem. I am a short, portly kid, and I wear glasses. Every other kid in the school was tall, had a suntan, and none of them wore glasses. Also, clothes wrinkle up on me. I don't know why this should be. 5 minutes after I get dressed in the morning, everything is wrinkled. It looks like I slept in my clothes. Not only did I not know anybody on my first day, not only did I find out that a short, portly, wrinkled kid with glasses is an outcast in that school, but I also sat down on somebody's half-finished good humor bar in the schoolyard. That reduced my confidence. Then it turned out that the school was not expecting me. My records, grades, and whatever the old school was supposed to send, they had not sent, or they had sent them to the wrong place, or they had gotten lost. So I had to sit on this bench in the office for most of the morning, sort of sticking to the bench because of the leftover good humor on the seat of my pants. Finally, they gave me this big pile of cards to fill out. Then I had to run all over the school getting teachers to sign the cards. 3 or 4 times I had to go back to the office with notes from my teachers saying that their class was full, or it was the wrong class, or it conflicted with another class I was supposed to take. And each time I entered a classroom, the class would giggle at me, then the teacher would ask my name, It was written right at the top of every one of the cards, but the teacher would ask me to say it anyway. Leonard Nebel, I would say, and the kids in the class would just go wild. I don't know why, but my name gets them every time. At lunchtime, I walked around the schoolyard. All of the kids looked sort of grown up and unwrinkled. Some of the girls even had lipstick on. The kids stood around in groups, talking and laughing. Some guys were showing off, walking on top of benches and chasing each other and hollering. Nobody looked at me or said anything to me. I had the feeling that if I tried to talk to somebody, they wouldn't have even been able to hear me. I looked for a quiet spot to eat my tuna fish sandwich. After lunch, I went back to the office. The lady there had told me to come back at the beginning of each period. She looked at my cards and told me to go to gym class. I went. When I got to gym, there was a bunch of kids sitting in rows on the floor. The teacher was standing on a bench. He was wearing sunglasses and had a whistle and on a lanyard around his neck. He had white sneakers on. I went around the kid sitting on the floor and came up to him from the side, holding out the card he was supposed to sign. "You're late, boy," he said. He had a very loud voice. "The lady in the office, I'm supposed to, this card, you have to sign my—" The teacher cut me off. "Nobody comes late to gym," he shouted. He really scared me. I could see all of his teeth. "Anybody comes late to gym, he does 5 laps. Now do 5 laps, chubby. Work off some of that lard. And while you're running, listen to what I'm telling the class." I started running, holding my stack of cards. "You will get 2 pairs of gym shorts, green. 2 pairs of sweat socks, white. You will get a sweatshirt, gray." The gym teacher was shouting at the class. His name was Mr. Jarris. His voice was so loud it made my ears hurt, even when I was making my turn at the far end of the gym. "That's 5, fat boy. Take a rest," Mr. Jarris said. "Now, since none of you have any equipment, you can spend the rest of the period horsing around quietly." Mr. Jarris spun around, jumped off the bench, and walked through a little door at the back of the gym. I was sweating and out of breath. I expected the other kids to start up with fat boy and chubby after Mr. Jarris had just called me those things, which was unfair, since I'm not actually fat but portly. That's what it says on the label when I get clothes in the department store. Boys portly. The other kids didn't tease me. They didn't pay any attention to me at all. They went right to work, fooling with the gym equipment, doing handstands, swinging from the rings, and stuff like that. I looked at the door Mr. Jarris had gone through. I wondered if I should go and knock on it. I just stood there holding my cards for a long time. Mr. Jarris came back. I said quietly. His voice made an echo. "Come here, fatty, I'll sign that." I started to walk toward him. "Run!" I ran. Mr. Jarris signed my card. "Now, by tomorrow, make sure you have at least gym shoes. By the end of the week, I want you to have all your equipment. Got that?" He looked at my card. "Nebel?" Mr. Jarris went back through the little door. The gym class was the high point of the day for sheer unpleasantness, but all of the other classes I went to were more or less the same. The teachers seemed annoyed that I was there, making them sign one more thing or send for an extra textbook, and not one kid said anything to me, although quite a few giggled at my name. By the time school let out and I started walking home, I was totally miserable. Our new house was almost a mile from school, and I didn't like it. There wasn't one kid my age in the neighborhood, except for some very little kids, babies really, a couple of blocks away. There were no kids at all. About the only good thing that had happened since we moved out of our old apartment in the old neighborhood was that my parents let me have a dog. The dog's name was Melvin, a big brown dog we got at the pound. I had had him since the middle of the summer, and he hadn't been able to learn a single trick. I spent about 2 weeks trying to teach Melvin to fetch a ball. I couldn't even get him to look at it. About the only thing Melvin could do that was sort of unusual was walk in his sleep. Still, he seemed like me, and would take naps in my room, snoring and mumbling while I read or worked on a model airplane. When I got home, Melvin was sleeping in the front hall. He opened one eye to say hello and then dozed off. My mother was in the kitchen, cooking liver for Melvin's supper. Cooked liver was all he would eat. I hate the smell of liver cooking. The whole house smelled of it. Everything in the house was still sort of new. My parents had bought new furniture when we moved. My mother had picked out a lot of stuff for my room so it would look like a picture she had seen in a magazine. I wasn't allowed to put any tacks in the walls because of the plaid wallpaper, which was very expensive, but just perfect for a boy's room, my mother said. So I couldn't put up pictures or posters or anything. I flopped down on my bed, which had a plaid bedspread to match the wallpaper. "How do you like your new school?" my mother shouted from the kitchen. I told her it was fine. What else could I say? Melvin wandered in with his eyes half open and sort of crashed down on his elbows next to my bed. In 30 seconds, he was snoring. I closed my eyes and tried to pretend we were still living in the old apartment. Maybe I'll read chapter 2. I don't know. I really like that book. That might have not been the most exciting excerpt from it I could read. It was just the first chapter. But it's really amazing. It makes me emotional. Gives me the emotional feelings, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Emotions. Okay. Well, you all have a good night, and maybe tomorrow or later tonight or whenever I'll read the next chapter. So, bye everybody.